Hello, good morning. This is a very quick off-the-cuff video. I'm actually waiting for a plumber to call. We woke this morning to a leak between the ceiling and floorboards, and it was quite a mess to mop up, but I'm looking at this in a positive way. The leak missed a sampler wall by a few inches. It could have been a lot worse, so I'm counting my blessings this morning. Anyway, whilst I'm waiting for the plumber, I've been going through some correspondence I've received overnight. And a question I have had is from a needleworker who wants to stitch only one rose. And she would like to stitch this sampler in the same orientation that I did to achieve the same proportion to her sampler, and it's the first time that she's using a high count linen, and she may be using 5363 or 5260, I can't quite remember, but before you decide how you're going to orientate your linen, what you really need to do is to make sure what the count of your linen actually is on the vertical and the horizontal. With the high count linens, sometimes they can vary from what is on the label. Now, you could get a pin and a ruler and go 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way through to 63. But it's very easy to lose your concentration and go wrong. A really good way of doing it to get it right the first time is to get a needle and a piece of sewing cotton and baste out an L shape. Now, when I look at linen, I can see threads in two from years and years and years of stitching, probably zillions of cross stitches. So when I baste out my line, I go under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2. And on that L shape, I'm going to make it just over an inch from the one corner and just over an inch from the other corner. Then I would take a hard ruler. Don't use a sort of fabric measuring tape, or even those little pieces of cardboard that you get with like a ruler printed on them. Those are not accurate, and you really do need accuracy here. When you think of maybe 63 threads to an inch, that inch, if it's just slightly out, will give you a miscount. And whilst that might not matter so much on a small piece like only one rose, if you are stitching, say, for example, Harriet Salt, which, you know, is a big piece, if you're out by 1 or 2 threads in your measurement, it could mean that you do not have enough fabric to stitch your piece, and it's heartbreaking when you get across and find that you haven't got enough linen. And I do know of somebody that happened to on a big sampler by using one of those little printed pieces of card with a ruler on. So you use a hard, accurate ruler. You take a pin and you measure an inch out from the one corner, pin in, an inch out from the other corner, pin in, and then you will be able to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can see how many stitches will fit into that measurement, or you can just go 2, 4, 6, 8 and tell how many threads are to that inch. When you've got your actual stitch count, take a pen and in a corner of your linen where it's not going to show, it won't matter, write on the linen the count with an arrow, and then you know exactly which way your count goes, and then you need to play with the proportion to see what works for your eye. Now, on only one rose, I wanted her to be elongated across and shortened in its height because I wanted to create that postcard shape. Now, if you have a problem visualising measurements, what you can do is draw it out on a piece of paper and cut out the shape. This is the exact size of this sampler on working it out on 5260. So on this one I've got 52 on the horizontal and 60 on the vertical. If I change that so that I have 60 on the horizontal and 52 on the vertical, you can see that is quite a different shape. Now, whichever one you do, it's up to you. This is your sampler and it should be how it is visually appealing to you. But what you don't want to do is start on your linen and end up with this shape if you wanted this shape, or vice versa. Work it out beforehand. Time spent in preparing for a project really does pay off. I know that a lot of needleworkers have to stop and think about this quite hard every time they sit down to stitch on uneven linen. And the easiest way to remember it is to work it out once. When you know you're right, write it down in your stitching journal. The higher the count of linen threads, the more cross stitches you can fit in. So that higher count shortens the linen that you need for the stitch count of the sampler. So on 60 count you are contracting the size of your piece, and on the lower measurements you are elongating it. When you've worked that out, write it down, and then it saves you having to work it out every single time you stitch on uneven linen. And I actually have a friend who every time she starts a new piece, she will ring me up and she'll say, "Nicola, which is which?" And she always has a little panic about it, and it's because one of the first times that she stitched on high count linen, she didn't get her orientation quite right. Her sampler was still very, very beautiful, but because she's a perfectionist, she always regretted not getting it right. Anyway, I don't know if you heard that noise. That sounds as if my plumber has arrived. So I better go and find out what we need to get fixed so we can get our water back on. Thank you for listening to my rambles, and I hope that I have helped a few of you. So until the next video, stay safe, stay well, and bye-bye.